Many people are enduring trouble in their marriage that really is not the explosive type of relationship where it's like, that's it, I'm leaving you, you did this, you did that, how could you, blah, blah, blah. No, it's usually a very slow process, a divorce, a breakup, a rift. And that happens because we always assume, well, like for instance, if you take out a tooth, well, you assume that they give you the injection to numb you and they pull it out. But that's not how they remove a tooth. Go on YouTube and watch. I did. They put an instrument between your tooth and the gum line, and they start applying pressure, working around the whole, circumference of the tooth until they finally get enough wiggle room to pull it out. And that's what happens in a marriage. Most of us are not speaking the same language to begin with, how much more so for a man and a woman, that they don't really communicate. Most people don't even know what the 5 love languages are. The idea that there are 5 things that people respond to. They are words of praise or affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, physical touch, and quality time. That means that if you're going to go to your wife every day and compliment her and say nice things to her, but you never give her a present, you never give her a hug, you never spend any time with her, you don't do any favors, any acts of service, maybe you're not meeting what it is that she needs to be attracted to you. But the same is true on the other spouse. You have to consider what it is he wants. It's very nice that you're giving him hugs all the time, but really, he'd like you to say a nice word to him. He'd like you to give him a gift once in a while, or even just spend some time with him. Each person responds differently. Some people need all of them, and some people need very little. But a lot of times people are complaining, all he wants to do is hop into the bedroom. He doesn't understand that I need him to meet these love. That's 100% true. But there is also the man or the woman who creates friction and a toxicity in the air by their mood, whether it's depressive or oppressive. How many homes have I been into where there was just a fight? I used to be that way where I would lose it and there was just a negative energy in the air. That's not the way. And then you're going to walk over to your wife later and say, hey, let's go out, let's have a drink and have some fun tonight. No, not going to go out and have a drink and have fun tonight. You just caused a rift between us. We need to work this out. We need to communicate. So that said, assuming that a spouse has done everything to communicate their feelings, that they have done everything to meet those 5 love languages, that they are really trying to make things happen outside of the bedroom so that hopefully things will get better inside the bedroom. Once that has been addressed and there's still a problem in the bedroom, that's who I'm referring to. Because I don't want anyone to have the impression that, if women just do this, then everything's going to be fine. No, men have their role to play just as well, whatever that may be. And that said, once you've met those roles and there's still a problem, that's what this class is going to address, this very short talk, if you will. So the obvious question is, how does this happen? Well, it's a combination of a lot of things. A lot of women are working very, very hard. There's a lot of sleep deprivation. There's a lot of kids to take care of, a lot of tuitions to pay, and quite frankly, as a woman gets older, in many cases, the hormones kick in. It's a normal thing. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the rejection still occurs. Now, what happens when a woman does that? When she tells her husband, First of all, there's 3 options. Either he's going to shut down, and then she becomes his roommate. He loves her. He could just as well be divorced, but he's not going to get a divorce. So he stays with her. He's passive-aggressive. Hopefully it'll get better. Oh, tonight was good. The next 10 months are terrible. Whatever, she's my roommate. I care about her. I'll help her. She helps me. But more often than that, what ends up happening is you have people that turn elsewhere. In other words, we go out for dinner tonight and every night, and now suddenly you're not hungry anymore. Well, that's great because I'm still hungry. So what ends up happening? Well, he's either going to watch pornography, he's going to go on social media and do something really stupid like on Tinder or something, and eventually leads to more obviously bad things that a married man should not be doing. So the question is, what's going on? Why is this becoming such a problem? I have noticed it, and the many rabbis that I have spoken to have admitted it to me, but they say we can't talk about it publicly, and we do it on a private level. So I'm going to just tell you some of the things that they taught me and some of the things that I picked up on my own and talking with people. First of all, what is a good wife? So typically, if you watch the media, if you watch anything, it depends. Obviously now there's more liberation, whatnot, but quite frankly, most people would say in the Frum world, she's a good wife. She raises a beautiful family, cooks, cleans, or at least gets a housekeeper to cook and clean, and the doctor appointments and setting up the bar mitzvahs, the weddings, all the wonderful things. And by all standards, if you would say that's the most important thing, that's a good wife, a woman would say that. But most men, if you ask them that, you'd get a different answer. Why? Well, because men and women are wired completely differently. A man's needs are usually sex, food, and ego, or power, money, and honor, while hers are completely different. Why? Because men are from Mars and women are from Venus. If you don't believe it, how about checking out the 10 million copies that were sold and continue to sell? See, women have certain needs that men will never understand. For instance, cleaning up before the housekeeper comes, setting a nice table all the time, getting these beautiful new outfits for Yontiv or Shabbos, or going to a jewelry store and going wild over necklaces and earrings, or watching Desperate Housewives, or having cosmetic surgery. These things do not make sense to most men. Now, on the other hand, most men, not me, they can watch sports all day. If they're not playing it, they can watch people killing each other on the field. They can go to a gun range and shoot guns. We don't really understand this because we're so different. So you would think, well, why would God create it that way? Shouldn't we be able to marry our sister? I mean, aside from the craziness of the thought, we were raised by the same parents. Maybe genetically it doesn't make sense, but shouldn't it? And the answer is no. That's why you can't marry your sister, because we're different, because we have to learn how to accommodate, change, and love each other. And many, many times you will see that a person's development, and that's why it says that in the Torah, that he has to leave his parents and cleave to his wife. There's a certain development that he can only attain when he's married. So when you reject your spouse and you treat intimacy as a burden, you're basically pushing your husband out of the bedroom. Most men do not want a confrontation, and they don't want to cross the sanctity of marriage, but they don't want to be rejected again. So they do stupid things. And in our society today, it's not considered so horrible to look at pornography, even though it's literally ruining and destroying people's marriages and lives. In fact, I think this statistic is true. About 60% of all marriages that do end, pornography had something to do with it. A woman, rather than feel burdened, should feel lucky that God gave her something that her spouse actually wants. Imagine for a minute if he didn't want to be with you, if he wasn't attracted to you. So rather than looking at it as a burden, I'd look at it as a gift. Oh, well, yeah, you should know the time that I spend and this and that. It's not such a gift. Excuse me. It is a gift if you love the person and you want to make them happy and let them know that it's the greatest thing that they can even do with you that's physical. They can't do that with anyone else, just like you can't. The desire that a man has for his wife is a healthy expression of love and passion. And unfortunately, too many men are made to feel guilty or needy even for wanting to be intimate with the person that they were created to be intimate with. Now, what about the fact that a woman legitimately can say, what about the hormone drop? What about my lack of desire? What do you want from me? I didn't create myself this way. So I will tell you that I am very close with a doctor who does injections, hormone injections. He has literally changed lives with people who lost complete interest, and yet because of this treatment, they're doing great. So there are ways that we can at least fight it, estrogen, whatever treatments there are. And then there's something that a rabbi told me. He goes, imagine you go out every week bowling and Chinese food with your wife. This is like you always do it every week, twice a week. You've been doing it for 25 years. And one day she goes, I'm on a diet. I pulled out my arm. I'm not interested. I don't want to do this anymore. He's like, hey, that's great, but what about me? I want to go. Does that mean you're not going to go bowling with me anymore? Does that mean I can't go? Just because you can't go doesn't mean I can't go. Something to consider. It's one thing if one person doesn't want to do it anymore, but what does that have to do with the other person? The other person still wants it. And again, you're rejecting him, you're pushing him away. When in fact, if you didn't push him away and you did that, maybe some of the other things that you wanted from him, he'd be more apt to do them because he felt that you really loved him and cared about him. But when you reject him, he's like, why should I even bother with this? She doesn't care about me, blah, blah, blah. Next. And by the way, I should mention, if he had a heart condition and the doctor said you have to take him every day for an hour for a stroll in a wheelchair, you would do it. Well, certainly being with someone that you love is not taking a walk in a wheelchair for an hour, and you can certainly do it. And this was something I heard from a lady, a Frum lady, who just flat out just said something to me. We got a little close, and she just said something to me that I wrote it down. I never forgot it. She said, Avi, I'm not stupid. I spend almost every day with my husband that I'm allowed, and sometimes more than that a day. I said, how could that I'm lost. She goes, I wasn't always like that. I want to explain to you. I figured out, and I quote, no matter what I did for him, the cooking, the cleaning, the shopping, the Yom Tov preparations, the outfits, that is the least of what he wants. He wanted time with me. He wanted me to close the door and spend 15 minutes with him. And I realized, rather than burden, I feel so lucky that I can make him so happy, and it puts him in a better mood. When we were first married, I was interested in doing what I thought he wanted rather than what he actually wanted. The fact that he loves me and wants to be with me all the time is great. Would I be happy if he found other women attractive? This is what she told me. So then I realized, you know what? It's not a coincidence that intimacy is the first commandment given in the Torah between two people, and there is no more physical act between two people that's more intimate than sex. So what is that? How is it that something so physical can have such a holy component in marriage? I think the answer is It's the idea that two people can elevate the single most physical pleasure and channel it into something amazingly powerful and holy. And so God forbid, when a spouse rejects their partner, it's opening up the door to only bad things. Now you might be saying, well, look, I'm just not attracted to you anymore. That's basically what he feels when you reject him. And there's no shortage of divorced or single women who would even married, who would happily make him feel that he was attractive. Aside from the obvious mental damage inflicted by watching porn, God forbid, our rabbis and our Kabbalists have warned the spiritual contamination that it does to a relationship. It destroys families. In fact, men, single or married, who have stopped have reported higher income, better mazel, better success in everything that they do. So I think the answer is that God gave women a gift, and also a man a gift, of loving each other, of wanting to be close to each other. There's nothing dirty or unholy about it. In fact, it's quite the contrary. But we have to realize that when we have no time for our spouses, either emotionally or physically, it creates a schism, a break in the marriage, and eventually you're really not as one. And if anything, that's the one thing that intimacy teaches us, is that we should become as one. Good luck on your quest.